Hi guys, welcome back. So this video is not about fundamental, it's not about news. It is only about the market psychology, because I think we've got to the point where things are getting more and more detached from the fundamental. And what we should look more into is the psychology behind the market price movement to see what the institutions are doing, instead of being manipulated by the news, creating a lot of fears, adding up on the desperation. Because remember, we've talked about this. Every rally should begin in fears and desperation and grow in skeptical and observation. And then it usually ends in greed and euphoria. If we truly understand this, I think a lot of the price movement can be explained by the intention of the institutions. This is why throughout these few months, Nasdaq has been making all-time high. A lot of people were thinking the crash is coming soon. So every time it pulls back, people were thinking it's the end. Institutions have been saying the market correction is now, but I kept saying that the fear and greed index is in fear or neutral, and the big institutions, they cannot exit. When the market is in generally fear, every big correction or crash usually begins with greed or extreme greed. So far, we have been seeing every pullback as a backtest and continue rising, which is why I have been bullish for Russell 2000 the whole time. I said it would make the all-time high to break 233, and we did break out strongly 2 days ago and continue running. As long as the medium to smaller caps cannot grow with the bigger tech in Nasdaq, the market would still be in somewhat fear. So I thought Russell 2000 has to grow, and we finally had this breakout after a long time consolidation for a year. Back in July and August, we had some huge dip for the S&P 500. It looked very scary, and a lot of people thought that was the beginning of the correction. And back then, my point was that many of the big techs like the FANGs had all rise except Tesla, so it should be the turn for Tesla to grow. And if it does, it would lead the market to continue growing. At that time, Tesla was in the 600 range, and we did witness the big rally after that. Even last week, when it was at the 1000 level, I said it's not over yet. It can continue running because it's not yet in greed or euphoria. At this point, most retail investors were still too afraid to chase and regretting not buying in or selling too early along the way. So I said, give it another 2-3 days with 8% or 10% growth, then maybe more retail investors would jump in because they can't take it anymore. It's not just the FOMO, it's also the comparison between NIO and Tesla, for example. Seeing NIO flat and Tesla rallying like this, it's more difficult to take than not having any EV stocks. Because when it's in comparison, the frustration adds up 10 times more. So I think right now we're boiling up. It is trying its best to convert the investors to change from NIO, Xiaopeng, and switch it to Tesla because they can't take it anymore. And this is usually when the institutions would do the opposite. So I think they would be buying NIO and Xiaopeng right now, or BYD, Geely, etc. Even my recent position in new FFIE, because I think it usually begins when no one is looking, when everyone is skeptical. I always think money goes to places unexpected in silence before everyone realizes it. So I said we might have more days for Tesla to grow 8 to 10% to maybe 1300. And I saw that this week on Monday we already made 8% growth. Let's see if it can get to 1300. So let's watch out together for some greed and euphoria coming up. I don't know how long it would last. Could be weeks, could be months, before some of the hot stocks right now get into a longer correction. So I guess you can join the party if you are looking for short-term excitement, and if you can always stay calm and not carried away by euphoria, by greed, then why not? But for me, I am more excited about the fear and desperation because this is where things are beginning. That's why I still think this is the period to accumulate. We can't possibly tell which day exactly is the golden dip. That's why I think these few months would be the period of golden dip if we look back from the future. And I think I won't regret adding so much in this period when the HSI is doing such heavy correction at the bottom. So I definitely think we are at the fear and desperation. I projected October to be the reversal for the Chinese stock situation. And it seems like we have seen the bottom in October. And after that, we saw a very strong rally running up. One thing after the other, many bad news coming out within the last few months, and the Evergrande and power shot really had highlighted the accents and pushed fear level to the most. So I think there's a good chance we have seen the bottom there. So if in case the US market does start to have a medium-term correction, I think the HSI would follow with a dip, but not necessarily make lower low. In these few days, I saw some people started to FOMO because they felt they have missed a dip here. And here I had reminded many times to not chase in because it's at the resistance, but rather lock in some short-term profit if you have grabbed the dip early October and wait for the pullback to 256 or 249. It was October 20. So this day. And 2 weeks later, we saw the backtest to 249. So if we have been prepared for the pullback, we shouldn't be fearful because it was as projected. So we should take it as a good thing and opportunity instead of being more anxious. But I still think there is anxiety building up because of the previous fall. People are losing patience, building up anxiety and desperation, or maybe being extremely frustrated to completely give up on Chinese stocks. And I would think this is an even better sentiment for us. We have been waiting for this sentiment for so long when a lot of people feel numb about the up and down movement anymore, to not trust even if it rises. This is being skeptical, thinking, yeah, it will fall down later anyways, and it will continue making lower lows anyways. Yeah, it'll pass. It can wait. Yeah, better options. Yeah, I'm done with this. So I think this would be the psychology we are looking for both the index and stocks. Like for NIO, for example, I kept saying accumulate because this is the golden dip. But people have been skeptical now, and especially comparing to Tesla. I still think it's good to accumulate. Yes, Tesla had been performing much better than NIO in the past 3 months, but when we invest, we cannot look at the past and make it a standard. I think a lot of institutions would own both. It's good to diversify. Sectors rotate, market rotate. It's not because it was weak or going sideways for a long time, then it would keep going like this. LKCO, the big earning was on Monday and there was a huge sell-off. But as I just said, this video is not about the fundamental or news, it's about the psychology. Like I said on the Discord yesterday, yes, sure, for the fundamental, maybe the cost for revenue raised concern and caused some of the sell-off, and also the short-term trader who got in for the earning bet needed to sell out. But in terms of the market psychology, I think it needs to destroy more patience in my bull case scenario, and the goal is to shake off the last bit of patience to build more frustration, so that in the future, one day when the stock rises to the range of 1.3 to 1.5, most people will sell out. Think about it. Right now, if it gets to this range, would you sell out completely and forget about the stock? If not, if you still have faith in it after its rise, then maybe it's needed to make it down again, or only move on the sideways when everything else would be rising fast, to drain the patience of most retail investors. Take a look at WIMI, for example. On this day, it has been a strong run up, near 30 to 40%, coming back down to the earth right after that, and has been not doing anything other than going sideways. I thought it was very interesting, definitely unusual movement there, because with the whole October correction in the Hang Seng Index, a lot of the Chinese stocks were doing this, making lower lows. But instead, WIMI were sideways, precisely in a very small range for a quite long period. So this is how I thought it was highly controlled by institutions. So like if people keep buying, they would sell, and if people keep selling, they would buy, to try to maintain the price range in this level. And this looks like to me the process of the accumulation for institutions to control it within such a small range, while all the other stocks were very volatile. So this one is very boring. So most retail investors would lose patience and get more frustrated that there's no movement at all until the institutions have accumulated enough shares, have enough control, and it's ready to break out. Last week I said WIMI is not over yet in the Discord, and I still think so. Another example is QS, QuantumScape. So it has been falling since the peak in December, almost a year already. Whoever had hype during this run-up had pretty much diminished over this, if not throughout the fall, then at least during this long process of going on the sideways, not doing much, not rising with the market. So on this day, I made a video and said that QS has just begun. After that, with the market correction, it did not make a new low, mostly consolidating on the side, doing boring actions, until the watching has finished and the institutions accumulated enough shares and we break out from there. Let's take a look at new. Ticker symbol NIU. It has also been moving on the side for a while, drained a lot of patience. Definitely interesting to watch out for a potential breakout. For BABA, every wave down, adding up more fears, more bad news, more desperation, more giving up. And not only by retail investors, but I think a lot of institutions also gave up at that point. And this is usually when the reversal might happen, when everyone's losing faith. At that time, I pointed out the divergence to be a good indicator, and we saw a good rebound from there on. On this day, I've reminded to take profit. During the pre-market, when it was around 182, October 20. So this day, it went up to 122 and then came back down. Because people who missed the dip when they were too fearful were starting to FOMO in. So that was usually when it started to pull back. Until last week, I said we are backtesting this purple trend line at 163. So it's good chance to buy in the dip again if you have missed the first. So let's see if we have seen the recent low of 163 and bounce back up from here, because this is usually when it pulls back from an uptrend and bad news start to come in again and people are starting to be fearful again and think that it's not worth it and maybe just give up. So then even though it rebounds from here, most people would be skeptical and just watch it rising until the next FOMO point. Miniso, ticker symbol MNSO. A few months ago, I made a video and said the stocks that I thought had bottomed, like Miniso, New and Teladoc on August 19, which you could see my kind of a buy-in list at that time. So that was here, seemed like it was the bottom of Miniso. After that, we have seen it slowly climbing. And what I love about Miniso, it's how quiet it is throughout this slow rise from the bottom. Every time it rises, it's just 1%, 2%, 3%, 4% at most. Unlike some of the other ones that are like one day 10 to 20% up, but right away came back down to earth to try to get more retail investors excited and create some of the bull traps along the way. But for Miniso, it's slow and steady, like climbing up with a little staircase. So it's boring. It's a very boring stock. It has been low profile for the last 2 months of the rise, and I really think it doesn't get as much retail investors attention like this. So who has been buying this up would be institutions, constantly buying a little bit every day. Every market pullback, just constant stream of buying in instead of all at once to drive more attention by creating a big bump. So this is a good sign for me to think that it's the institutions that are silently buying in. The last time I said this for a stock, it was for JKS. For JKS, I also call out to buy the dip at 28 and throughout this rise or reversal. I have called it a few times in my videos, but it had not gotten enough attention. I don't see any asking in the comments or Discord. So that was the time I said that I thought the whole run-up was really driven by institutions buying in and not so much by retail investors. So I thought it would keep going, and you saw what happened after that. And now I have the same analysis for the psychology for Miniso. This is why I also have been adding more Miniso. As I mentioned a few weeks ago, I set the limit order of YSG at 2.8, Miniso at 15.4, and also planning to add more NIU. So it was here when I was waiting for a pullback, and recently we see a pullback back to 15. So I think Miniso might be growing without much attention there. Most people are still skeptical or just observing on the side, or maybe not even have it on the watch list. And last, I want to quickly mention crypto. Recently, the crypto world has been on fire. Bitcoin has been growing very well. Since I pointed out the golden dip on the day it reached 28,000, it has more than doubled already. But why are so many crypto projects growing with other crypto-related stocks, but not the ones like CAN or NCTY and others? This is usually where frustration happens again. It's been a while, and I would understand the anxiety would build up, and watch out for this might actually be the process of switching or converting people to get lost here to chase the others. So I think there is opportunity with CAN or the 9 or others. Recently, I also took a position with EBON, ticker symbol EBON. I think for the fact that it has been going downwards and consolidate on the side while the rest of the crypto stocks have been going on fire, I think the movement is interesting. So I took a position to try it out. Anyways, that's enough examples. My whole point is that right now we are driven farther away from the fundamental. In a way, the share price does not match the company more and more, so we should stop looking at all the news driving more fear, or at least stop being affected by them, but really look deep into the psychology behind the share price movement to understand what the institutions might be doing. Of course, there is no guarantee way to know what they are doing exactly, but through looking at the psychology, I think it's at least much closer than the news. And there are only a handful of institutions that really know what is really going on in the company. By maybe having in-depth discussion with the CEO to really understand deeply the vision of the company. So I think right now it's really the time to look at psychology more than the news and fundamental. I hope you find this information helpful, and I would really suggest to practice more on the psychology and spend less time wondering why certain stocks are dropping. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, please give me a big like and write me a great comment, and I'll see you in my next video. That's it, guys. Hope you can find my videos helpful. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and give me a big like. Thank you.